Welcome to the State of the Pels. Pelicans debuted their City Edition court the other night. Got absolutely throttled. We're going to talk about that first thing off the bat. Let's bring the panel in. It's State of the Pels.
Oh, no. Get it done. And on the spin and the reverse, the slam by Zion.
I need to know everything. Who and the what and the where. I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but I like it's new what you're telling me.
Hey, guys.
What's
What
up, buddy?
up?
Hey.
Hey. We got some piping hot tea. Chrissy said she was coming with the fire. Oh, you can't see it. We got some piping hot tea tonight.
Good.
And I believe we got some thoughts about what the heck is going on when we play these upper echelon teams. Chrissy said she had some thoughts. I'm going to give her the floor just to start this thing off. We're going to talk trades eventually, but let's get into it.
Thank you, Patrick. All right. Well, after watching the Suns game, I was just like, this has to stop. Why can't we play up to these really high caliber top teams? Do we feel like, here's the first question. Do we feel like we don't have the talent that like the Suns do? Do we feel like we should get blown out from a team like that? No.
I do. I definitely do.
I can't.
Tell me more.
I mean, Devin Booker is the best shooting guard in the NBA, right? I mean, you've got Kevin Durant, who's like a top 20 all-time NBA player, and then like as your third option, you have Bradley Beal, who's been able to shoot the three and play defense more than he ever because he has that pressure off of him from being the lead guy. And like I agree that when the team like when their second and third units are in, you should be able to keep up a little bit more, which was what I hated to see in that Suns game. But I mean, I kind of still go into those games thinking we're going to lose. I think the Suns are,
Right.
but when all three of those guys are healthy, I mean, they're a top team in the NBA.
But should we be getting blown out?
No, I agree with that. We
That's what
should.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, a close game, sure, we lose it. We know we're terrible in games where it's decided by 3 points. We haven't won a game like that. But blown out, I mean, what are we doing? And interesting that you say 1 second and third lineups are in there, because let me just tell you a little information that I found. So listen to this. The McCollum, Jones, Ingram, Williamson, and Jonas team, like when they're starting, they're ranked last in the NBA among the 14 lineups that have played at least 500 possessions together.
Mm-hmm.
So we're starting off okay, outscoring in the beginning, and then once they come back in for their second round, in the second half or so, we're getting outscored by almost 20 points. What is up with that? Like, these are 5 really good players. But what do we need to do? Do we need to throw Trey in there and get Herb out? Like, I love him. We have so many good players, but like, it's not a popularity contest. You can't play everybody. Like, this is not all like everybody participates. This isn't rec league. Like, this is the NBA. Like, you're going to have to sit some guys. It's not making sense right now.
I mean, Willie Green touched on that at the end of the last game presser, and I think at practice today, he touched on the idea of like addressing that, because the Pelicans employ guys and girls who study the analytics, right? And I think that that's something that has continuously come up. However, we've seen that right now the team and maybe the coaches seem to be hesitant to make big sweeping changes. They like to continue to get more gradual changes here and there, adding Jordan Hawkins slowly and then adding in more and more and more and everything like that. So I definitely think that it needs to be addressed. But at the same time, I think that you have to have the conversation of why is it not working? Because those guys, all of them are good players, right? Why are they not working together? And I have said it for a long time that I wish JV and Jose's minutes were tied together because of a lot. And now I wish that Jordan Hawkins and JV's minutes were tied together, because I think that those two could dominate the most second units, and Jonas could get the touches that he probably deserved on this team.
I think that's a good point. He needs more touches. Like, before that game against the Suns, we hit 25 3-pointers, and we went inside out ball the whole time. That's a great cup that you're drinking out of there, Jacob. But But we didn't do that this game. It was like the inside out stopped and we just thought, hey, we're just going to knock down a bunch of threes again. So, you've got to feed the ball inside. The whole point is to collapse it. And JV, he's a very consistent player. And, so I totally agree with that. One thing I did want to mention was that out of all 10 starting players against the Suns, so both teams, Zion was the only player without one rebound. And that to me is a coaching issue. You've got to get in there and say, son, what is going on? How does everyone out here have at least one rebound? You are the most athletic, strongest guy out here. How do you not have a rebound in the first half?
Yeah, I think we talked about that last week a little bit. We were kind of searching for like what the heck is going on? Why does this team fail in these moments or fail in these big games? And I pointed out that our forwards and our guards do not rebound at all. Like they don't even try. And the conversation I was trying to stay away from the whole time was it's Zion. It's Zion and BI. They just don't attack the boards at all. And you can't win games if your two guys like that aren't going after rebounds. It's just not going to happen. Like, yeah, you'll probably finish 7 seed, 6 seed, but in the playoffs, you're going to get blown out. Like, you have to rebound, and you have to want to rebound. So I agree. I don't know if it's coaching. I guess it's coaching. Like, how do you motivate? That's the piece of coaching that.
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, to me, that's what it comes down to. I work in sales, and if my manager can't ever motivate me and I have to do it on my own, and I don't feel like there's ever going to be a consequence if I'm being lazy, which by the way, I'm not lazy. I don't do that. But you've got to get up in their grill sometimes. I'm not saying that Willie's not doing that. Of course, we don't see everything at all. Like we're, watching on TV and hoping that we know what we know. But I mean, something has to change there. That can literally not happen again the rest of the season. Zion has to rebound.
Part of it is, and Chrissy, I think obviously you can understand this from the basketball standpoint, is in games when you're on a team that has flaws, and I think rebounding's a pretty big flaw of ours because we don't do it right. And there are other flaws that exist. And from a coaching perspective, you kind of pick and choose your battles, because if you're asking BI to be more of a facilitator, if you're asking Zion to do more of this or Zion to do more of that, anything that you take effort away from to redirect it to put effort towards, one of those things is going to suffer, because you could say, Zion, I want you to get 10 boards, and those are his metrics or whatever you want him to hit. But that also could mean that, he's not as active offensively, in some other areas where honestly this team needs him to be a whole lot more active offensively. We've talked about him being more point guard Zion or whatever. But I think that's kind of where you're at, is you need Zion to rebound. You need BI to rebound. You can't have both of them not rebounding. That's the issue. If one of them didn't rebound, it wouldn't be a huge issue. But the fact that you're running pairs of guys who don't, that's the issue. It's you could almost stagger 82 games. Okay, these 41 games, you're going to rebound. And these 41 games, you're going to rebound. And you could almost play it off of who has the favorable matchup to who's going to go crash the boards, right? And you'll get that's one of the reasons that Josh Hart was so successful here, is because he energized guys to go get rebounds, to go give effort. And as much as Herb and as much as some of these other guys do, you don't have anybody that takes as much pride in little stuff, I think, as Josh Hart did when it comes to the rebounding and stuff like that. And I think that's what kind of we're missing, but I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. One of them at least has to. I would challenge you a little bit on that. If you have one, maybe you can't have the other, because to me, rebounding is about effort. I mean, just care. Because look, I play pickup every Tuesday night, and I'm a lot more well-rested when I finish playing if every time I shoot a three, I just watch it and hope somebody else grabs the rebound for me. Not that Zion's doing that, but I'm just saying, when you take a shot, go for the rebound. There's nobody in his way. That to me is just, I just don't think that effort's there sometimes. And if they get down a lot, then I think it's really just we're never going to come back. That frustrates me. I don't know.
Do you think they have a weak mentality? Because I kind of get where Jacob's coming from with picking and choosing your battles, right? If you're telling a guy, do this, do this, do this, do this, I get that they're pros, and I get that like ideally they're perfect individuals and they can take all of the coaching and they can absorb it all. But at the same time, like if you were just going hard, like, hey, I really want you to focus on this, and then you come back to them later and you're like, hey, but I also need you to focus on this. Some of that stuff's going to go in one ear and out the other.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I mean, because, if like in our personal lives, we have something that we're focused on, we're going to obviously put more attention on that. And that is maybe a coaching issue that Willie's, he's backed off too much on how important rebounding is or something. But I think what you said is really interesting about the mental side of things. Because sometimes I wonder if we're mentally weak. Not that anybody is deliberately doing that, but that's something you have to practice too, is being mentally tough. And I'm like, are you automatically counting yourselves out when you're playing these top tier teams? Are you just assuming, hey, yeah, we're probably not gonna be able to beat them? I'm not sure, but to me, that is partly mentality.
Yeah, I mean, I think I definitely agree. You definitely see Zion close out long on corner threes or up top and either leak out or not go for the rebound. Like, I think all of us would recognize times in the game when he does that. Part of it is also like a pick and roll type thing, right? Zion, when he's on defense, gets picked on when JV isn't on the floor. We don't talk about that enough, but he does get picked on a little bit because of his lackluster defense, especially at times, which again is more of an effort thing, which draws him out further, which puts him in a position where he's not able to go get or doesn't see the value in giving the effort to go get the board when JV or Herb or somebody else is down there who has their guy boxed out or something like that, which leads to a lot of the frustrating, long rebounds, everything like that. But I think that's a real thing. The strategy to pull Zion out of the center of the floor or have him make really, really long closeouts, because he does tend to draw himself into the paint when action is back in the paint to get those weak side blocks that he absolutely has been killing in college and over the past couple of games. But it's definitely an effort thing as much as it is a schematic thing from other teams that, hey, we know this guy does this. We know this guy has this tendency. So we're going to attack that tendency.
Fair. You want to put a ball on that? Move on to trade conversation. I feel like the last 2 weeks here, maybe definitely last, like we had this same type of conversation: effort, rebounding, Zion. Like we kind of keep tiptoeing around it. Now we dove into it. Like it's definitely rearing its head. I've been pretty vocal on my Who Effing Knows podcast that I hate having the same conversation over and over, and it's why that podcast is all over the place. But like, these are the same issues we see every week, and it's so frustrating. And I don't know. Do we like talking about it every week? Like, that's my thought.
Yeah.
Well, and one thing I want to say is that it's not like, oh, well, we're building a strong team now. When the guys get healthy, we'll see. Like, we know what they're capable of doing. And that's why when it comes to things like effort or tweaks on a coaching standpoint, it can be frustrating as a fan, because it's like, oh, we're just right there. We're so close to like where we need to be. And we want it to happen. So that's why, we're kind of having to nitpick things now, because they are all healthy and they're really talented. So.
Fair. All right, let's talk trade stuff. Jacob, I heard you had some good trades. We could kick it off by saying there was a rumor that came out, I think it was yesterday, the day before, that Herb Jones was available. That's been absolutely shot down today, which, as Pels fans and people who have seen how this team operates, we kind of figured that was absolute BS. But if you have thoughts on that, share it. If not, jump into some trade scenarios you have in your mind.
I think that one of the things, and shout out to Ryan Jethro on Twitter, he put it really, really well. He said that, especially around trade season and everything like that, David Griffin and his team, Trajan, Swin, everybody else has always and will always play it very close to the vest when it comes to trades. Have always, will always, just because that's kind of like how they like to operate. And so he said that, he's always immediately skeptical of anyone who says that they have the inside scoop on anything going on with the Pelicans. The only times that he's seen it come out beforehand was when, CJ McCollum was going to get traded here, right? He wanted to be here, etc. But it was leaked from the Blazers organization because they were trying to get more value out of CJ, both from the Pelicans and to see the value around the NBA. So, one of the things he says is that, nothing will come from the Pelicans. So if you hear something being said, oh, the Pelicans are shopping X player, definitely question that, more or less because of how tightly the Pelicans played to the chest, and David Griffin especially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
I
think
don't have.
they're wise to do that too, but we're not getting rid of Herb Jones. Are you kidding me? Do you want people mad at the Pelicans organization?
I personally feel like even if they were looking to trade him, it would be very, very short sighted. I think that the team and the management has a strong enough pulse on relationships on this team to understand. First of all, Herb Jones is extremely talented. So if you're giving him up, why? What are you getting back? Even if it's a Godfather offer, right? And I'm not saying he's like, an MVP, but he's damn good. Even if it's a Godfather offer, you're ruining your team's chemistry. Like if the team sees him get shipped out the door, they're immediately going to be looking around like, what the hell's going on? It just wouldn't be a good look. So that was my first response and why I was like, there's absolutely no way this happens. And then also the argument to it, or the theory behind it was like, oh, they don't want to pay the tax. They can't pay Herb, Trey, and BI or something like that. And I was like, well, Herb's already paid. Like, this makes absolutely no sense. So even aside from, kind of what you were getting at, where the team's really not going to leak anything anyway, like it just didn't make any sense to me.
I agree, 100%.
From there,
Do we
though,
think that the Pels are sorry? I was probably going to ask what you were going to say. Do we need to make any moves? What do y'all think?
Absolutely. I think that there's too much talent that has been made available, whether it's real or not. Obviously we're all fans. We don't have necessarily the inside scoop, but I think that there are a lot of really intriguing assets on the market that could make the Pelicans a team that is set up for extended success past this season, that we are poised to make the playoffs.
what are you looking at?
All right. So this is my home run trade. I want you to know this before I get this. And before I say this, I also want to say something else. Before I say this trade, I know that he himself has not been made available. But as bad as they are, everyone's available for the right price, in my humble opinion. Okay? So I believe the Pelicans are searching for a center, a franchise center. And you get that one of two ways. You trade for a guy, or you draft a guy that you have a really, really high grade on, right? Or make a draft day trade or something like that. I think the Pelicans need someone who has a lot of defensive upside, who could play well and could also develop his game a little bit more. And for that reason, I'm trading Jonas, Dyson Daniels, and a first-round pick to Detroit for Jalen Duren.
Okay.
Whoa.
And honestly, I could probably be convinced to give him a second first-rounder, simply because of the contract control that you have. I would almost make them say no, if that makes sense. I'm really high on Duren. I think he has a lot of defensive upside. I think that he's a guy that's going to know his role, that's young, athletic, has the ability to make shots when he needs to. And like I said, he's a very mobile, very good defensive fit with this team, and fits the timeline a lot better than this team does, or than the current situation at center does.
I don't hate it. The biggest problem I have, and this is a very bad answer, this is probably the same mindset that a lot of people have when they think this way, right? Like, I don't like moving Jonas. I don't like moving Dyson. But at the same time, if you just sit here and just hope for the best, I say all the time, hope is not a strategy. If you're just going to sit here and keep the same team and just hope that everything works out, you're probably going nowhere. So you probably do have to shake things up. I know there's a lot of smoke around Jonas. The contract situation, he wants to be paid. I know they're not publicly saying anything, but that's kind of what Streets is talking, right?
Mm-hmm.
I get it. Does it take that much? I know Duren's looked at as a young, valuable piece. Does it take that much to get him?
I think it's dependent on Dyson's value on the open market. Truly, I think that's what it is. Detroit is not going to keep Jonas. They'd reroute him somewhere else and get a pick or something like that, and kind of live with that. I think the other thing that you could do to make that trade a little bit better is to be able to get them off of Killian Hayes this season. And you could do something like Another one that I was playing around with is Jonas Dyson in a first rounder to Detroit, and then you take back Jalen Duren and send Killian Hayes in a first rounder to Washington and add Corey Kispert to your team. So you'd get Jalen Duren and Corey Kispert. You'd get more shooting and a defender and a defensive big that would help out a lot. And then, that kind of gets tough with what you do from there. But that's kind of the idea that I would have to continue to help them shed cap and move assets around that sets you up in a position to extend. Because, Hawk is really good. Trey is really good. Kispert is like one of the leaders in made three-pointers so far in the NBA. You could have the two best shooters from a couple of draft classes ago, and it'd be really, really awesome.
Listen, when you said Kispert, my eyes lit up. I'm not going to lie. I was like, actually, I kind of like that. I do not hate the idea of what we're getting back here. I mean, I don't know how far off that is or if that's obviously even a possibility. We're just sitting here making up stuff on the fly. Mm-hmm. But, man, I would be willing. I love Dyson. I would be willing to part with Dyson because right now our ceiling is very limited with what we mm-hmm. have, and you're going to have to make moves. Give me the shooting and the athletic big. That's what we always say we need, right?
Yeah, because I agree. I don't want to move people. In my fantasy football league every year, I never make trades because I'm always like, this is my team, and I feel attached to them. But at this point, I think we can all safely say the Pelicans are not an NBA championship team right now. So something's got to give at some point. If that's the whole thing.
I think you also make it a little bit easier for Willie because, Jonas, when you have too much unique talent on a team, it's really hard to game plan, right? It's really hard to game plan around Zion. It's really probably even harder to game plan for him as an offensive mind. And so it can be tough. I really understand. A really kind of another route that you could go is the backup big that we've talked more about. And I think a way that you could do that is to swap assets with Charlotte. You could trade Cody Zeller and EJ Liddell or somebody like that for and you could throw in a pick that has a bunch of protections on it or whatever for Nick Richards, for instance, who's a guy that doesn't have a lot of starting minutes or whatever, but does really well in his backup minutes, which is kind of what you're looking for right now, because it seems to be the Pelicans are going into this trade deadline with tertiary moves in mind. And if there's a big name that comes up that they think can really, really help, they'll make that. And so I think that those are the ones that I would really, really love to see. I like the idea of Jarrett Allen, but, I read some reports today that because Cleveland's doing so well, they're not even interested in moving him anymore.
I have a thought. You have the Brandon Ingram contract situation coming up, and I have a question around that. Do you think there is absolutely any chance that the team considers moving Ingram?
You always listen. That's my thought on everything, is that there's probably 4 or 5 players in the NBA who you don't even listen to anything for, right? I mean, that's just those guys who like Joel, Jokic, those type of people that you don't even listen to offers for. If someone calls you and give you a monster haul, you're moving Brandon Ingram. It just kind of is what it is. That being said, I'm not convinced that the front office is convinced that I think the front office is convinced that they like BI more than they like Zion. That's my belief, just from a team building standpoint and a work ethic. We don't have to get into Zion, his off-court stuff, the drama, none of that matters necessarily to me, but it does it affects relationships. And that's what basketball in the NBA really is. And one of the things, I can't remember who said it, but they said that one of the things that people don't understand is sometimes deals between franchises matter so much more if the GMs have relationships. And so that's something that I think comes up a lot. But I do think that if Brandon Ingram said today, guys, I'm just not I can't do it. I can't play here anymore or whatever. Obviously, you're going to move him. Obviously, you're going to look to that. But I think that that's something that would have happened a while ago, not, in the next couple of weeks. But we've been surprised by things like that before.
Yeah. I just wonder, and I'm wondering aloud here. I feel like eventually, I would hope, eventually, if you continue down the path you're on, which I mean, they're technically the 5 seed right now. Just look at the standings, which is awesome. But if you continue this kind of like back and forth, like you're trending upwards, you get throttled by a great team, you don't show out in big moments. When does the awkward conversation happen? Do you wait too long and then you're kind of stuck with what you have and you wish, oh, I wish I would have made a move? Do you wait until the off season and it's a sign and trade situation? Like, when does the awkward situation or awkward conversation happen about like the true makeup of this team and how they fit together when we talk about Ingram and Zion? And I know that this is like a deep rabbit hole that nobody really touches. Like, you see that the top media, ESPN and stuff, wants to talk about this because it drives clicks, and that's not what I'm doing here. But it feels like if the team just kind of continues to paddle in circles here, you got to at least talk about it.
Yeah, and I think that you do. I think the tough thing is though, like for this specific situation, right? Like big moves like that typically get made in the off season, not in the middle, right? Stuff that has happened, like Pascal, we knew that one was coming for a while, right? Like we saw that play out, and I think BI respects the organization, and the organization respects BI so much that it wouldn't just be like we're going to ship you off in the middle of the season type of thing. And so going into an off season where Brandon's in one more contract, has another year under the contract, eligible and everything like that, like I could see it happening. But I think the question is, if you're going to trade BI, you have to be dang sure that what you're going to get back is going to be something, because you have been in a spot. I mean, it's tough because this is the first year everybody's been healthy. And like, this is the first year of real data that you're getting with BI and Zion and CJ and everybody else. And it's really, really tough because that question is looming over everybody's heads. Like, it really genuinely is.
Yeah, and even go ahead. I'm sorry. I have more thoughts.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I was just going to say, and I think Willie Green's a good coach, so don't get me wrong, or do they look at it and say, Willie, you have wasted this time with them? Like, is he more on the chopping block than we need to trade somebody?
What time? I mean, before the season, it was 40 games, not even.
No, and I mean, obviously, I'm talking about like the off season or something like that. I think he's done a good job. I'm just saying, you have a ton of talent, like we always say. So, and you said, like, Jacob, it's harder to game plan. Well, figure it out though. Like, how long do you need? Okay, maybe we need half the season, but if by the rest of the season you can't figure it out, I mean, that's kind of on you. You have the talent.
But I mean, that gets into the question of, do you have talent or do you have championship level talent? And that's a much bigger conversation to have. Mm-hmm. And that goes, because if you have championship level talent, 76ers, they have tried to find their coach for several years now, right? To get them to the championship level, because they have, in their belief, championship level talent. Joel Embiid dropped an insane amount of points tonight alone. Like, you think that you have that. I think the Pelicans are still answering that question.
Yeah.
Could be wrong, but that's what I think.
I think if I had to put a bow on what I was thinking there, I think the problem is your timeline is at a different place than what you've seen on the floor product wise. Like you said, like, you just haven't seen them together. Now we're all healthy. It's the first year healthy. You're finally getting data. Well, guess what? You've actually got 3-4 years contractually of this team. So you have to make a decision based on this data very quickly, which is going to be very, very interesting. That's where I'm at with that. That's why I'm bringing it up, because you don't have as long as you actually think you have. Maybe you do.Maybe you can move some pieces around, but it's going to be interesting.
It's all about asset management. Like, that is what it is. And it's tough to manage your assets when you don't know the value of your assets. That's just kind of where you're at.
Cool. Do you anticipate or expect any other major trades? Do you want to get an all-star talk? What else we got here? We're at 30 minutes. I don't want to cut it if y'all don't want to, but
I think that I don't think any of the I don't expect any trades. If I were to see a trade, I don't think it'd be like a big thing because I don't think any big names the Pelicans have been tied to are available. The biggest one I could see is Jarrett Allen, and that one seems to be snuffed out more or less because of Cleveland and their play. I would assume that Matt Ryan gets a roster deal once he's healthy. He actually gets on like a real contract and everything like that. But other than that, I think they're pretty comfortable staying with this group, whether we like that or hate that. I think that they're just comfortable doing it.
That's fair.
And
So
Malcolm
don't
Hill.
anticipate or expect anything.
Yeah,
I was going to get to that next. Shout out Malcolm Hill.
10-day
about
contract.
it.
Shout out to the boy. I got a chance to talk to him when the Pelicans went to Birmingham for a little while, and he was there with a lot of the other G League, the G League squadron guys and everything like that. He's a really good dude. I mean, he's one of those guys that you kind of root for. He's been killing it. 25-5, over the past like 10 games in the G League, certainly earned him a nod. The Pelicans had to sign somebody to fill out that last roster spot before I think it was like 14 or 13 days, whichever it is. And they rewarded a guy that's been playing well for them, and it's a good move. Good, whatever, $60,000 for old Malcolm Hill there.
There you go. I know we don't expect him for a long time, but just looking at his splits over the last 10 games here, you mentioned the points and the rebounds, but he's averaging 77% true shooting percentage, 92% free throws, 44% from three. I mean, what more can you ask?
Just free throw a line, I'm liking him,
Yeah, and that's yeah. I really do think he's a really, really good player for sure. Old Illinois guy, top tier. But I don't know that I don't think the Pelicans. I think the All-Star game, to your other question, is mostly momentum and narrative driven. And I don't think the Pelicans will have that until they provide themselves with a deep playoff run, one way or another. I think the biggest you're going to look for is like individual awards, like Herb Jones, Defensive Player of the Year, or first team All Defense, etc. So I think those are more the things that you look at more or less. But just my opinion.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm not too worried about the All-Star game. I'll be honest. I'm more interested in the skills competition.
Who cares?
And all that stuff
Who watches the All-Star game anymore?
I know.
I don't.
I like the skills for sure.
Fair enough. That's all I got. You want to close it out with some final thoughts?
Sure. My final thought is I think it's really stinking cool that every one of the Nance family who's been in the NBA has played for the Cavs and wore number 22. That's a freaking cool thing, man. Pete, Larry, old dad over there. I mean, that's pretty cool, man. Like, we always talk about the Holiday brothers and Antetokounmpo brothers and all these other people, but that like generational thing, but that, Wardell and, his dad have and a bunch of other people is like, that's cool, man. That's just stinking cool. That's all I got to say about it.
I love it. I love
It
it.
is
I don't
cool.
have anything super crazy. I guess. All right, I'll shout this out. The Kelsey brothers. They got to be two of the coolest dudes in the world, right?
I love their
Jason
podcast.
Kelsey's shirtless, hopping out of the suite, picking up little girls to come see Taylor Swift, like just playing the perfect role of the drunk uncle, right? Like he's just living it up, man. They look like they're having fun. I'm not a conspiracy theorist or anything, but I firmly believe the Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl because the NFL was going to find a way to get Taylor Swift to the Super Bowl one way or another. That's it. That's my thoughts. You got anything, Chrissy?
Yeah, I will say that the NFL playoffs, I hope that these games on Sunday are close games. Like, that's what I want. If the Saints aren't in it, like, give me a bunch of really good, close games. There have been too many blowouts for me. Like, third quarter, I'm like, all right, this is over. But I think Sunday's games are going to be really good. So, and I've kind of come around on seeing old Taylor popping on my TV screen every now and then. So, whatever. It is what it is.
We officially did a Taylor counter the other day. I was watching the game last night, and every time she popped up, I was counting, and I was messing with my buddy. It wasn't as much as you would think. It was just like 8-9 times or something like that. It wasn't that crazy.
Early on in the Taylor Swift, Arrowhead stuff, I had some friends that did a shot for each one that you saw Taylor. Didn't make it to the fourth quarter. That's all I got to say. It was rough.
Please.
That is rough.
Maybe they've taped it back a little bit. But yeah, it's fine for me. At first I was like, this is annoying, but now it's all good. Just give me a good football game to watch.
She's just enjoying herself. It's not really about her. That's what I like. Like, yeah, they show her, but it's not really about her, and you can see that. I respect that.
Mm-hmm. Patrick Mahomes' dad reacting to Brittany and Taylor was really, really funny. He was like,
I saw that. I saw that. All right, that's it. Close this thing out. We appreciate y'all. We got more coming next week. We'll have some of the old gang back together, so if we'll have Dylan here. We had a cool shirt come out. Bayou Snipers. Dylan really loves it. Dave and myself helped design it. We're really proud of it. Go pick one up. We also still have the cool little Pelican shirt for Pels Press. Does that guy have a name?
Poe the Pelican.
Poe
P-O
the Pelican.
apostrophe, like Po' Boy.
Yeah, that's a dope shirt too. Go get you one. Flood the streets with our gear. We want to see it. That's it. We'll see y'all next time. Appreciate it.
Peace.
All love.